You know, it's just easier to do top stitching. Today though, I'm going to show you how you can get the best of both worlds. When you do right sides together, if you have a piece that you really like and there's not enough white below that, like say you have some cute little bunnies in the selvage instead of numbers or circles, you can do top stitching on that. So I will show you, and then you won't lose those special prints. I'm just going to start by taking 2 selvages, and I will remind you that you want to put a raw edge onto a selvage edge. That will keep all your words and numbers and everything going in the same direction, and it also won't be as thick because you're not sewing selvage to selvage. You might make a mistake with that. I did, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So raw edge to selvage edge, right sides together, and I'm sewing. I'm going to be sashing 5-inch squares, just 4 of them to show you. So I need my little strip to be a little bit longer than 5 inches. I put my selvage down first with the selvage to the right and then a raw edge on top of that. It's just the way I do it, and it hopefully keeps me on the straight and narrow. And like I said, I did manage to make a mistake. And let's see here. Let's do this guy. A couple more. Now see these numbers? There's a lot of white underneath that. So I certainly can do them right sides together, and I won't lose those numbers. Let me take these off, and then I push the seam back to the raw side because that's not as thick. So I lay it down with the selvage on top, and I push that back. I took a break and edited, and I forgot to mention that, yes, I'm using 2-inch selvages. They're 2 inches wide because I'm going to be cutting my sashing to 1.5 inches. But you can use wider selvages if that's what you have. Like let's say you have 5-inch selvages. You can sew all those together, and then you can, probably get, 2 strips, maybe 3, depending on how wide you want to cut them and how wide your selvages are. You can just cut your strips of sashing. And I'm going to show you now what I mean about top stitching if you want to save something. See this one? There's little fuzzies on this one. Some people don't like the fuzzies. I like the fuzzies. So I want to top stitch. I'm just going to show you that we can do this. And we do the same thing. We're going to put that selvage on a raw edge. Doesn't matter if you sew this way or you turn it and sew that way. I'm doing it this way. Selvage on top of a raw edge, and you don't want to be too close to the edge, so pick a raw edge that has quite a bit of fabric on it, and this one does. So I'm just going to lay it right there and top stitch. Let me take this guy off. Normally we would just send a whole bunch of these things through, but I'm doing this for a video, so I'm not going to send too many through. Now see, we have that one top stitched. And you can do that anytime you want to save the little numbers. For selvages that are all one color or have just white or just little pieces of wording that you don't care if they're lost or not, or they have enough white underneath, just go ahead and do those right sides together. Let me send something else through. And I ran out of bobbin thread. I'm back. And I'm going to just go over this again because it stopped on me halfway. I'm going to press this and I'm going to trim it to 1.5 inches. I will be taking some off both sides so it's nice and even. This is what I have. It's way more than 5 inches. That's okay. Now I'm taking 2 squares. I just went with these plain pink because I happen to have that in my scrap pile. The only thing about this is when we add the sashing, we're going to be folding over, and having the seam to the side of the square. And in my case, this is pretty light, and so it's not the best choice, but you don't want to be folding back the selvage because it's just too thick. So make sure your fabric, if it's light, that it's thick enough so that it doesn't bother you if we see the, the seam behind there, or just, make it dark, or you can also use prints. I'm just going with pink. And you can decide if you want to sew, with these seams up. It's good to do it with the seams up. Don't worry about where that lands. Whatever I trim off down here will be part of another strip. And if you did it like I said, always putting a selvage to a raw edge, all your seams are going in the same direction. So just lay the strip down so that they're all going down like that. And then you can sew on that side. And here's what I mean. I'm going to put it this way, and I'm going to press this piece back. Now, before I even trim, I'm going to add my other piece. But how are you going to get it straight? I'm going to remind you, when you put strips, I cannot tell what's the right side or the wrong side of this. Okay. When you put things together like this, you're not matching up this edge. You want to match up these edges. So I want to make sure that my square is straight, and then I'm just going to put it as close to this edge as possible. Now these squares, these lines are straight. It's not even here. I don't care. I'm going to sew on my top square, and I'm going to do it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance using the edge of the square as my guide. And I'm going to push back the square. And we have this happening right now. My lighting is changing. Now at this point I'm going to go press that, and I will trim the selvages off. All right, I have one, and I have another one. Now I have a strip that I knew would be long enough, but I haven't pressed it yet. I'm going to go press this and trim it. If your strip is very long, after you press it, you can fold it over and trim that way, both sides. And I wanted to show you where I went wrong. See, you can see these names and numbers are all in the same direction, but this little guy at the top is upside down. And I looked, and it's because right here, I ended up accidentally sewing 2 raw edges together, so it threw me off. I think it's cute. And if you make mistakes like that in the entire quilt, you can have people look for the one that's upside down. Now I'm going to add my strip. I pressed it, I trimmed it, and when you are joining things, again, you can decide, do you want all the, selvages to go in the same direction? And I guess I will do that for the sake of this video. And I'm going to put this piece here. All my selvages are going down. I'm going to push this back. And I'm not going to press just yet. And now I'm going to lay my other piece here. These are all still going in the correct direction, so they're not going to get caught on this little ledge. And once again, okay, do I want to keep everything in the same direction? I'm looking at these words, going that way. This is a good way to use up, leftover 5-inch squares if you have charm packs, or if you have some solids and you're not like a fan of solids, you can make the selvages be the things that shine. Let me press this and trim it. I was able to trim this to 10 inches. I really like it. I'm not a fan of this pink fabric. It's, it's kind of just a little bit too sheer for my liking. I would have liked maybe a print. And, a print that's not maybe like too loud. It's just really, really cool. And you would just make as many blocks like this or rows that go all the way across. And then you would sash them together, and you'd have to have, you know, sashing everywhere that you need to connect them. And I think it would just look really nice. And remember, if you don't have a lot of selvages, save the ones you have. You could do this and just add selvages here and there, and you can use regular fabric for some of these for the strip sets. And I show you that in the previous video. The link for that video will be down below. All right, let me just take a picture of this. I'll have it coming up right now. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe or I may cry.